Chapter 8, the J.P. Andrews Building, 998 Monterey Street. You should still be on the left-hand side of Monterey facing north. Continue north and stop at the corner of Osos and Monterey. You're now standing at the steps of the J.P. Andrews Building. There's a green bench nearby that you can rest on while you listen to the story of the man who built it. During the drought of 1864, while other ranchers were unable to feed their cattle, one John Pinckney Andrews bought up all the cows he could at incredibly low prices, and he used them to feed his pigs, which he then sold at pretty high prices. Small wonder he would become one of the town's most powerful businessmen. J.P., as he was known, was a native of North Carolina. In 1857, he decided to head west and arrived in San Luis Obispo 2 years later. A rancher, banker, and very savvy businessman, J.P. raised pigs, dairy cows, and sheep, and was one of the first beekeepers in the county. By 1883, Andrews was head of the San Luis Hotel Company that built the Andrews Hotel on this spot and named it in his honor. But that's not the building we're looking at today. That one burned to the ground in April of 1885, just after a few months of operation. A local newspaper recalled it this way.
The firemen responded promptly to the alarm with their apparatus, and vast crowds of people flocked to the scene. It needed but a glance to convince every beholder that the magnificent building was doomed. The fire had got such a head start, and the vast building being constructed entirely of wood, to fight the flames seemed a hopeless task. But nothing daunted, our gallant firemen made a determined effort. When the fire had burned down to the second story, the heat became so great as to endanger surrounding buildings. The heat was so intense that the men could stand it no longer. Notwithstanding, they were covered with wet blankets and streams of water were constantly thrown over them. The fight was a stubborn one, but the end of human endurance was finally reached, and the men had to abandon the front of the buildings on Monterey Street.
Andrews was devastated, but vowed to rebuild. He opened his new building on January 2, 1894 as a bank and public library, the one that replaced the Carnegie Library we heard about earlier. The building was constructed in 2 phases between 1893 and 1906 and stretched the entire block between Monterey and Palm Streets. The stonework and details are both grand and impressive. In the 1920s, the building was painted and became known as Citizens State Bank. You can view an interior shot circa 1899. Lucky in business, but not in love. J.P.'s wife, Tennessee Andrews, filed for divorce from J.P. on the grounds of extreme cruelty after 35 years of marriage. Busy J.P. often left his wife and children alone on the ranch to care for themselves and the animals. A harrowing account of a mountain lion attack by one of his daughters concludes,
Snarling, the lion faced mother, who, taking as careful aim as she could under the terrifying circumstances, shot and killed the beast.
The divorce case was heard by the county superior court and was granted, a scandalous event as divorce was uncommon in those days. Opinions differ about J.P. Some say he was a kind philanthropist and a great businessman. Others say his success was due to the hard work of his family and those he employed. The real truth lies hidden in the solid brick walls of the J.P. Andrews Building. We'll cross Osos Street now and turn left up Osos about a half a block to meet on the steps of the old county courthouse.